You are listening to episode 11 of the EU Startups podcast, featuring an interview with Milda Mitkute, who is the co-founder of Lithuania's first tech unicorn and second-hand fashion marketplace, Vinted. Hello everybody and welcome to the final episode of the EU Startups podcast before Christmas. Let me start off by sharing with you that we're currently open to bring a new podcast sponsor on board for the upcoming episodes. If your company would like to reach a highly engaged audience of a few thousand startup enthusiasts per podcast episode, please just drop a message to thomas@eu-startups.com and I'll be happy to tell you more about this opportunity. But now, without further ado, I'm handing over to our head of content, Charlotte, for today's interview.
So for today's EU Startups podcast episode, we're talking about fashion tech, sustainable wardrobes, and the wider concept of the circular economy, which is a topic that many of us have been thinking about these past weeks and months. So for this discussion, we're happy to be joined by Milda Mitkute, the co-founder of Lithuanian startup Vinted, which is Europe's largest secondhand fashion platform. And already Vinted has grown to a community of over 34 million users over the world in 12 markets. And last year, it achieved the status of unicorn, which means it's valued at over $1 billion. So hello, Milda.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you for joining us.
Nice to be here.
So my first question for you is, I was doing the research for this podcast and I learned from one of your talks that you said you used to spend 80% of your salary on clothes, which is very impressive.
Nothing to be proud, but yes, that's true.
And it was actually this that was the thing that boosted you to come up with the idea of Vinted. So I was wondering if you could tell us a bit about how the first concept of Vinted came to be, which in the first stage I understand was just a project. It wasn't created to be a business. It was just something you made for your own use. Could you tell us about how that started?
So actually the idea was, for some reasons, I don't know, it was like, for us it looked cozier to call it project, but actually it was a hobby activity. I would say it would be like the most true to say that it was like a hobby activity for both of us, like Eustace and me. Eustace was the other co-founder. And everything actually started, as you mentioned before. So I had like kind of huge passion for style. Like I was obsessed about finding my own style because then you were 20 something, so you're looking for ways to express yourself. So it was like one of the ways for me. And and I ended up with very, very full closet of things. And this is how the idea was born. Like, no, okay, I have lots of clothing, and I was moving from my native town to the capital, Vilnius, to study. And it was the first time then I realized that, okay, how much stuff I have, and especially how much stuff I don't use anymore or never used actually. Like I counted more than 100 items with tags, or worn once, maximum twice. So it was for me eye opener, because then I started to think, okay, like what should I do with the stuff I have, because I don't want to throw them away, because like in our parents' time they used to, you have your shoes and you wear it till it dies. And in our generation, it's like it doesn't happen anymore like this, because as I said, I had like almost 100 items with tags. Almost all of them were with tags. So it says that, okay, it's like brand new items, never worn or worn like just a little. And, I just didn't feel good to throw them somewhere, like to put, or just to give away, just to be a bit honest, because it was new things. Like, so I thought, okay, it would be very nice if I could sell those, all of my stuff that I don't use anymore. And in return, I could browse in other girls' closet and take something from their closet. So this is how the idea was born. So it was Yeah, it was pretty selfish thing because it was more about like, my um, my problems I wanted to solve. And yeah, and at the beginning, it wasn't a business idea. It was, yeah, just like, I have a problem. I need to solve this. And this platform might be solution. And then we met together with Justas. We sat together and then we agreed that, okay, let's do this project. So both of us, we didn't see this as I don't know, global business. We didn't see this as Lithuanian business as well, because for us it was everyone has, like, someone has podcast, someone has its own blog. For us it was okay. We have our own platform where we can play, like, for me as person, just to get rid of my stuff, but at the same time, for me it was and for Justas as well, it was like a platform where we can experiment as young professionals, like he as a developer and me as a, like, I don't know, I was 21, so it was like marketing, communication, PR, like community. So it was like, I didn't know what I want to do in my life. So for me it was everything what is interesting I want to explore, and I want to experiment here at Vinted. So this is how it was born.
So it started out as kind of a test platform to kind of a safe place to test out different ideas and kind of play
Yeah.
around with different, and then so you were in your early 20s at this point, and you were running this hobby project, and then you started to notice that it was growing really fast, and maybe some investors were contacting you. So what was the moment that you knew that Vinted could actually be a business and you started to take it more seriously?
Okay, so it's a long and short story. So, you know, depends on how much time we have, but I will try to fit a medium short story. So the idea was like that the first 3 years, it was just a hobby project. So we didn't consider and we didn't see this as a business. But after 6 or 7 months, when it was launched, we started to get calls or emails like, guys, I don't know what you're doing here, but we would like to buy you. And for us, we don't want to buy because, well, we don't want to sell because, well, it's like a playground for us. And like they used to offer like 10,000 euros for the platform, 20,000 euros. But, it was like, okay, said, okay, we are young. For us, money would be an interesting thing. But, we have a higher goals. Like for us, it was like very important to experiment, like platform where we can play. And so for the first 3 years, even though we got lots of traction, but most of the traction was like from companies that they wanted to buy. And now I see like it was like kind of protection. Those companies wanted to protect because it was mostly from some classifieds area or from media area that they wanted to kill the upcoming competition, and that's why they wanted to, because they used to say we're gonna buy you and we're gonna close you. So for us, we didn't like this ending, so that's why we said no. But after 3 years, the first business angel, Mantas, he joined. He came to us and said, "Guys, like, do you realize what you're doing here? Because I'm not sure if you see, but like, it can be like a global thing, and you just sit here, like the Lithuania. At the time, we also had Germany, German market." And he said, you like having party, but this party can go global. And for us actually it was the first time then we started to discuss like what we want to do with this, and like, is it okay for us to convert the hobby project to business? And for us, for Justas and me, it was like both. Like we said, like actually in 5 minutes, okay, we feel that this business angel looks like a match, like Tinder match, like it's a match, and because we have similar vision, we have very similar values, and we have like the same kind of young ambition. Like we're not afraid to okay, let's go to the world, and we don't have anything to lose. So we said, okay, let's do it. So it was the first time then we decided that we want to try this to convert this to like business entity. So 3 years after Vinted was launched, I would say Vinted finally became a business.
So it started to grow quite fast, right? And And you had, because you jumped into Vinted right after university, you had no business experience. When you realized that you were kind of at the front of this platform that was moving very quickly and it had potential to be something really big, how did you overcome this? How did you step up? And because you didn't have any time to step away and prepare, it was happening right now. So how did you step up to lead in that sense?
That was quite a big journey for me, and like the first 3 years, even though it was also like still a hobby project, but it was growing so fast. But it also came with some excitement. Okay, I can explore many things here, and like as I mentioned before, I have zero experience, like working experience, but I can do mistakes, and I allowed myself to do lots of mistakes because then you treat this as a hobby project. You kind of say like, I don't worry that I make lots of mistakes and I do something that doesn't work. So I allowed myself to do lots of mistakes. 3 years later, then we said, okay, let's try to be like more like professional and look at this like as a from business point of view. So it was pretty difficult because our growth started to we started to grow even faster, like much faster, multiplied times faster. And then it was like, no, the first time that, okay, I had to face that, okay, what does it mean being in a hobby project and what does it mean to be in business? Like in a hobby project, okay, so, I got bored of answering emails. So I will take 2 weeks off and okay, no, I will not answer emails. And let's say then you're in business. So it means, okay, you cannot afford to have this. And, like strategic thinking, discipline, like started to appear in my life. And I had to learn those things because, as you also mentioned, so I was 21 and I wasn't in business before, like I didn't have any business experience. So for me, it was kind of a carousel. Like, you see that Vinted is growing much faster than you. You need to catch up, and you still have that ambition to not to fail and to catch up. So I did my best, but it was always a struggle, like okay, how to be better. Then I was like comparing to yesterday Milda was like this, but today Milda wants to be much better, and tomorrow she must be even better than today. So I had this ambition, and it wasn't very easy thing. I actually was like, no, were some periods in my life, and I would say like personal life, what does it mean? Like, so I had those moments as well. But like every time I like started to look back, like 1 year back, 2 years back, and I see, okay, but the like improvement, like to myself, like then I compare myself 1 year ago and like today. So I started to see that it's a huge difference. And for me, it started to like motivate me because I saw, okay, even though how difficult it looks today, 1 year ago it was even more difficult, and now it's getting easier and easier. So this is like psychological aspect of that growth and that speed that Vinted brought. Yeah, so.
And I'm thinking about your team. From the beginning, it was you and Eustace, right? So, and I read that you were jumping to other countries, opening other countries. Through there was an experience where Eustace knew some people who were doing the checking.
So you know a lot.
I did my research.
Very good.
But yeah, so how would you give any advice for other founders who are thinking about building their team and how to decide which are the first profiles they should bring into the team? How do you decide which would be the next position to add to your company? The types of personality traits that you should look for right from the beginning?
So I would say like my first advice always is like identify the core activities that are needed to succeed in business. Well, let's say Vinted case, like developer, like developing online platform, you need to have a developer. So technical side. So Eustace was like this, he covered this thing, but also the second part is like communication, marketing, and so on. Like that I would say soft part. So it also needs to be covered by someone, because usually, like, if Justas is developing the platform, so someone needs to, to take a stand and to talk to people, to members, and to, try to promote it. So for us, it was, no, we identified at the beginning two core activities, like, it was marketing and technical side. And it was actually it happened by accident, but this is like one of the most valuable learnings that I learned, that when I talk to startups, I see that they say, oh, I know good friend and he's good at this and this. And I always say, try to think opposite, like, try to step back and think not about what people you know, but try to think about what company needs, what core activities company needs, and only then look for friends or for colleagues. Because for me, it's usually like one of the main pathways that people choose. Oh, I know a nice guy, he could be like no good guy. So this is what I see, and that would be one of my main advices. Also, I would say it's very important, for me it helped, try not to be alone, because sometimes you, like, no, especially if company or product grows very fast, and, well, sometimes you feel lost because you don't know what to do, or like sometimes you have those weak, like, days, and you feel very weak and like demotivated or tired. So it's very helpful to talk to someone. And if someone is, like, on the same page, in the same boat, so it's very, like, you can help each other. So for me, it also was one of the best things that happened to us. So that would be my advice as well, I guess.
That's good advice. Yeah, to have somebody to brainstorm with, to kind of to bounce those ideas off.
Yeah, because there is an image that you need to be so smart, you need to be so cool, that you need to do everything by your own. And I think that, people sometimes they're afraid to ask for help, like, or to say that, let's say you come and say, I don't know, like, let's talk, or can we work on this together? So sometimes I think it's like, it's good to go out and to say that, okay, I'm not perfect, I need help.
Yeah, you can't do everything alone, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And then I read also that you, in the later years of Vinted, you brought on a new member of your team who was quite central to shape your monetization strategy, which now I understand that it's a model in which the sellers, they are charged a small cost. So I wanted to ask about this model, and do you see it changing in the future, or do you think this is the way that Vinted will always be working?
So because we were in that period of time, then we said, okay, let's try to monetize the product, and put extra fees, for not extra, but fees for all members. But we saw that actually it doesn't work at all, and it's like, kind of made a little bit damage for our community as well. So, and we discovered that actually, like, the current model that we have at the moment, this is, the the way to go. And our platform at the moment is totally like, if you don't want to pay, it's free. Like, you can upload, you can sell for free, but there is, like, you can pay like extra commission fee if you want. It's kind of protection fee, like, and we give you extra insurance or some other, like, benefits that we offer. So, it's optional. It's not that, every member needs to pay. And I don't, at the moment, at this point of view, at this point of state, like, in this stage, I don't see that we can go back and to say that, okay, it's gonna be paid product. At the moment, I don't see this.
So at the moment, it's free for the sellers, that you always can sell, for free. Yes.
And for buyers, if they like, unless they want to pay, like, if unless they want to pay to buy some security or some, like, but for buyers, it's also free.
Okay, interesting. And I also wanted to ask you about the concept of work-life balance, as a founder, because many founders are tempted, and is also useful at times to work all of these extra hours. this can lead to burnout, and which can mean that you stop completely. Your health is affected. So how did you move from working 7-day weeks all day every day to shifting your perspective to working a 5-day week, or trying not to be so perfectionist, and kind of testing these like productivity smart strategies? Did you find worked the best for you? Or maybe not, if you can recommend a specific strategy, but do you have any advice for founders on how they can find their own best way of working and also take care of themselves at the same time?
Yeah, for me, like, no, this was like, no, one of the main topics of my life, like the last 10 years, like, no, how to find balance. First of all, I had to admit that I don't have balance, because for me it was no, so who cares that I work 10 or 12 hours per day? Like, no, I still have like other hours I can go to the park or somewhere. So, and I couldn't admit that I don't have time. Um, and so first of all, you need to admit that you don't have time, like time, and ask yourself, do you want to have more or not? Because in some cases, lots of people who say, oh, I'm in this stage, maybe it's gonna last like 5 or 10 years, and I'm okay not to have personal life. So for me, it didn't work, because I said, okay, I felt really like I burned out, and I didn't feel productive anymore. I was tired all the time, and you spend more hours at work, but at the same time you are not delivering anymore, because like your mind, your brain is like, well, not capable to think anymore. So yeah, I did like lots of experiments, read a lot, and I think that I can tell what worked for me, but at the same time I also can tell what didn't work for me, but it might work for other people. And for me, that it was, I first like made a mindful like rule that, okay, I need to go out of the station. And for me, the most important thing, okay, I cannot afford to have 3 months holidays. So how to get most of my free time that I have? So I actually started to be very, very precise and demanding for my free time, for the quality that how I spend time. And it was like, no, okay, there's a weekend, okay, only 2 days. So how to do the most of it? Like, you can sit on sofa the whole day and the whole weekend, but okay, maybe you haven't opened your computer, but at the same time you still feel stressed and tired. So for me, what it works, so it's like physical activities that, I mean, kind of the edge, like edgy ones, like I used to go like 10 kilometers, and for me it was fine. And edgy activity would be for me like, okay, maybe let's try 30 kilometers and trekking tour. So each Sunday I used to go 30 kilometers at least, like walking, just walking and thinking, and not trying not to think about job. I also like started to, yeah, like lots of sport activities. Then I also started to meet people, like to meet people and ask how they live. Like, and for me it was very nice to to hear how people live outside Vinted, because for me it was my life, my personal life is also about Vinted. Like, if you ask how you're doing, you always start to speak about Vinted. And for me it was okay, so let's choose people who inspire you, like and it's very nice to hear how they live, and it's totally different life. And for me it was oh, it's really nice. There's another world outside. I also made, yeah, and for me it was actually very big thing. And also I became actually very selective with whom I spent my time, because okay, I have only 2 days in the whole week, so I don't want I used to have, I think most of us have those meetings. Oh, I have to meet for a coffee because I promised or something. So I said, okay, sorry guys, I don't, like, not to them but to myself, I don't have time for those people, because if some people don't, if I don't feel a match with someone, so I just skip those meetings and that's it. So I skip maybe 40% of like cut 40% of people that I used to to spend some time. And I said, okay, my goal is inspiration. and that's it. I also tried to experiment with more about like working techniques. Let's say, okay, what does it mean to finish your work at, let's say 7, not 10 p.m., but let's say 7. But the job that you, it's job like goals that you need to reach, they didn't disappear anywhere. But then you say, okay, instead of working till 10, I will work till 7, but I have to reach the same result. And I don't know, for me it worked a lot because I started to change my mindset. Like, okay, let's brainstorm with myself. How can I shorter, like, to make it everything shorter? And it was not enough, like, I will have shorter meetings. It doesn't help because you just, okay, you can have 10-15 minutes shorter meetings, but well, it's just like, just details, but it doesn't change the whole system. So for me it was, I had to over like to think totally how I do my stuff, what I do, and I realized, okay, how much stuff I do that is not very important, or I do so much stuff that other people can do. And for me it was, no, okay, why I don't delegate to other people?
Mm.
And for me it was like one of the things, like, I thought, oh, I realized that, okay, I'm pretty poor leader because I don't trust people that are like, in my team. And I said, okay, so maybe my goal is to empower and to give the power to them. And maybe I'm gonna spend like 40% more in teaching them something, but afterwards it's much more scalable because then your hands are free and you don't have to do so many things by yourself anymore. And then you can grow because imagine like you cut 40% of your activity that was like hands-on, and now you have 40% more time, so you can think, you can dream about something, or just think about strategies, not about tactics anymore. So for me it was, no, put yourself in a very like stretch situation, like let's say don't work on Fridays. Well, at the beginning it didn't work for me, like it was later stage, but later I said, okay, try not to work on Fridays, just 4 days, but the result is still, you need to reach the same result. So, and for me it was, then miracles started to happen. I started to feel like, to brainstorm and optimize all the time, everything what I can do I always try to optimize. So it
Mm.
worked for me very well.
And it sounds also about like it's about drawing limits and drawing boundaries. So saying, okay, my limit is that I'm only going to spend time with people that inspire me, or my
Yeah,
limit is that I'm only going to work until 7 and see if I could do that.
yeah. So
Yeah.
for me, setting limitation was very good because then, okay, I wasn't that strict. Let's say if something really bad happens, okay, I there used to be Sundays that I used to work, but in that my project, like getting free finding some free times for my personal life, I call this project like this. So it was, I tried not to work on Sundays, and it was okay. Like, that's it. If I go out of the office, that's it. It's done. And for me, it helped because then you have 2 days to relax. Then on Monday you get back with such a full energy, like you have new ideas. And it was like, no, oh, on Friday it looks so difficult, but on Monday it seems, why I was struggling, because it looks so easy, and because it's just fresh mind, and that's it.
Yeah, taking some perspective. So,
Yeah,
yeah, and I also wanted to ask you about moving kind of back into more like wider perspective about the fashion industry, and because you've got this interesting perspective of working on Vinted all this time and seeing how things have changed in general in society, and how more people are becoming interested in conscious fashion, conscious
yeah.
wardrobes. Um, why do you think this has happened? Do you have any theories about why people are starting to be more interested in this kind of fashion, and why this trend is growing?
And I think it will grow, and not only in fashion. Well, I see it. Obviously, it's not only in fashion. Um, so I think that there are many reasons. One of the reasons that let's let's from let's start with the very pragmatic side, like very selfish side. People have lots of stuff, and it's like in our generation, overconsumption is like takes place everywhere, and we have so much stuff. And you know that if you buy from someone, from other people, it possibly will be the same good quality, the same good condition as in shop. Because let's say 20 years ago it couldn't work like that, because as I said, our parents used to, you have one sweater and you wear till it dies. And in our generation it's not the case anymore. There's also like no technology that made possible and connected people. And I think that if you would say like, okay, can you go offline and just sell your stuff, people would get bored, I guess. And it's much more time consuming than it is now with technology. And it's the last, but I think it's like now it's one of the most important things. So that mindfulness, that you understand what is happening in your planet, and you understand that, okay, I can be also that, put some effort and to be the part of the change, and how the and to make the impact, how the planet will look like in 10 years or in 20 years. And I think that it's like what I really see. So 12 years ago it was, I go to Vinted because I want to buy some cheaper stuff, and or also it's so much nice stuff that I don't find in shops anymore. But now I see much like more like new trend. So I go first because I see the meaning of that, like because I want to make it, and want to be part of the that makes impact to the society and to the planet. So I think it's becoming a huge trend, that I would say mindfulness of where we are and in what situation we are. So I think it's combination, but all these different aspects made this thing that big. And I think it's first, I don't want to to sound very naive and oh, it will be the future of the world. But in some way I believe, because well, I don't think that there is another way. Like, and I always say like, no, as soon as secondhand becomes the same convenient and the same attractive as firsthand, then there's no question, like people will choose secondhand for sure. So it's for us companies, it's a big task how to make secondhand the same, like attractive as firsthand.
And as this grows, do you have any predictions for what you think the industry could look like in the next 5 or 10 years, or do you have any exciting tech or projects that you think that we should check or keep an eye on?
Fashion? You mean fashion
Mm.
or general?
In fashion tech and in general, if you have any other cool recommendations.
Fashion. So what we see from our results at the moment, so it's definitely like being isolated at home increases online like activities. So it's like, for me, it's no doubt, and we totally see this. At first it took us maybe 6 months to see this. Well, we knew this trend, it was a kind of a proof that we are like that is going to be even bigger than it was before. But if you speak not only about fashion, what I see, like I'm mother of three and so on, and for me I see like lots of things about online education, because fashion and companies, they like like profit oriented companies, they still are always kind of are the first to adapt to the market and to find new ways to adapt. And for me it was like always the open question, okay, what about education, what about AI, what about science, how it will be, because maybe sometimes it doesn't look that profit oriented and it might be slower. But with here I would say, like, after this COVID situation, I think that we should expect lots of remote education, remote working solutions, much better, much more, like much better quality. I expect that this is going to be like the new reign of new ideas and new unicorns in the future. So this is the area that we're going to see a biggest progress on my education.
And final question, what's coming up for Vinted in the future? And do you have any exciting plans that we should know about?
I'm actually not sure how much we should, how much we want to, to tell. So I think that maybe we can talk to Lily about this. But anyways, our goal, spread the virus. I mean that good virus, not COVID. But I call it swapping virus. This is the goal. It's like I like that, like the talks that we have inside in our company. When we would say that it's over, then it's okay. That all consumption is sustainable. We managed to do that. So it's like, there's a long way to go. Maybe it's not even possible to reach in our generation. Maybe it's for other generations, but at least direction that we have. So it's definitely this one.
So we should be keeping an eye on sustainable fashion and watching the industry and see how it grows over the next few years.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's the end of the questions that we had for you. So thank you so much for joining us.
Okay.
And that's it.